This is Kenyon Holcomb, Cindy Martin, and JC Trawl. So in the Akamai case, there were several internal change drivers that were very apparent. Akamai struggled to localize services to international clients. This is important because they support major clients such as Apple and Amazon. Additionally, they had leadership transitions and leadership changes that allowed them to help fix these issues and drive change internally. They restructured their responsibilities and they had product and service innovation as well to help them assist in uplifting their products and services. For external change drivers, they use the development of technology, increased globalization, and then they had growing customer expectations. So it pushed them to need, or it created a need for them to keep changing and adapting to what their customers needed. For the 7S framework, Akamai's operations were significantly shaped by various external factors, as I stated earlier, technology, globalization, and evolving customer expectations all pushed this. The fast-paced advancements in digital technology were essential for Akamai to maintain its edge on the content delivery network, or the CDN sector. As the demand and need for quicker and more reliable internet services grew, Akamai had to keep innovating and changing to deliver high quality content to major clients as well as other buyers, etc. For the STAR model, Akamai strategy should pivot toward boosting its global footprint and focus on not just large scale content delivery, but also customizing solutions for various markets. To truly be a global player, it must cater to the unique needs of customers across different regions.
So we conducted a gap analysis to answer a few questions. Where are we now? Akamai is a strong leader in some of the European countries, such as in some of the European countries and the United States. It means that they are considered CDN leaders in that market space. However, they are facing competition increasing in other countries such as Japan. And although not mentioned directly, they talked about the reliance on traditional CDN services, and cloud services are a strong suit in their domain. Another question that we asked is, where do we want to get to? So Akamai wants to be able to keep their market growth as high as it is in the CDN industry, and also grow in the AI-driven multi-cloud services. And what do we need to get there? So more investments in their R&D budget, figuring out how to strategically attract more of the market, more strategic acquisitions, like mentioned when they were discussing CDN networks in Japan, called out they had never heard of them as a CDN company. And then find differentiation for factors to run with, and expand their partnership and improve their integrations and just become more modernized. We also conducted a PESO framework to analyze and monitor external macro environmental factors that could impact their operations, including political, economic, social, technological, legal, and ecological. As you can see on the screen, it mentions some of the things I called out before. And we also conducted a force field analysis for their strategic shift. So Akamai wants to transition from just a CDN only model to a leader in edge computing, cloud security, and multi-cloud networking. And these are some of the driving forces for that: market demand, increased cybersecurity threat, competitor advancements, enterprise shift to multi-cloud environments, remote work, and digital transformation, M&A opportunities to accelerate innovation. And then we also found some of the restraining forces: brand perception as just a CDN, high competition in cybersecurity, integration complexity with cloud providers, internal resistance to change, and pricing pressure from competitors. And I would argue that although they may not have been entirely ready for the change, the company vision had to change. It was more of emerging rather than evolving. The way the world was evolving was they needed to adapt to the change or it would set them back even further.
So next out of the questions that we were asked, what were potential causes that would have led a resistance to change for the organization central to the case? And we were asked to briefly discuss, possible causes of how they were applicable to the company, Akamai. So there was a lot that was across the board, but the few that stood out the most were fear of the unknown, loss of control, cultural inertia, and organizational structure and hierarchy. How all these really correlate is more so in the matter of change. All of these different topics have something to do with whether it's a resist to change or um, different values and shared beliefs that may cause changes throughout the company, and so on and so forth. And this same loss of control, employees or managers may resist the change if they feel like they are losing control. So if how this applies to Akami is if they were to shift, to a more decentralized or decision making process like that, many employees who are used to how things always were may feel like they don't have the same sense of control they had before. Still relating back to this question, like I stated in the intro of this, organizational structure and hierarchy. This resistance can be caused from very stern, kind of stuck in their ways structures, and this can be applied to Akami through flattening out certain strings, I guess you could say, making everything smooth over to where nobody feels like they're more important than the other and everybody's equal in power. One of the other questions we were asked, develop a question for each of the four steps using the appreciative inquiry AI technique highlighted in that chapter 9 in this instance. So the four steps involved in AI are definition, discovery, dream, and design. The first one here is definition. And this question just pretty much helps to define the purpose and the focus of the inquiry for the company. Next on this list would be discovery. And this question pretty much just helps to look at the positive experiences and solutions for the future and to recognize what could have worked well and maybe could have been better. Third is to dream. And this just has to do with taking the big step or the big leap, whether that's in stakeholders or betting on the company, knowing that it may be a big risk, but it could pay off in the end. And lastly, on this list of four is design. And this question just pretty much focuses on what you want in the future, what the company needs, and to be actionable with it and to involve everyone in the different marketing teams and to brainstorm all strategies. And lastly, of all the questions, we decided to use the three-stage model of Lewin's three-stage to express the different stages through this. So the first stage of this three-stage model is unfreeze, which is, like it says, preparing for change. So this is going through and acknowledging what needs to happen and that things could probably be ran better with different delivery methods and just communicating and getting the ball rolling on that. Secondly, in this model is change, which implements the new ways, of course. So change is where everything you've brainstormed and kind of talked about within your groups and your teams through this company is now we start putting this into the system and putting this out on the floor to see how it works. And if this doesn't work, what we could do different, and just kind of watch it for what it is and see what happens, and take it as feedback. And lastly, in this model is the refreeze, which is solidifying the change that you made in the change before. So everything you watched and you've decided you've liked, and with all along your groups and your teams and your company, everybody kind of comes to a point where they know what works now and they like the changes that have been made. So now they lay this into the fact of this is how we kind of do things now. We're going to shy away from the old, um, and hopefully continuing to invest in everybody and what this is. And it will, in the long run, better the company.
Cool. In conclusion, Akamai's vision for content efficiency and CDN did provide them with a really strong foundation. Their reputation, where they did have carbon print, was positive, but because their focus was so vertical, it did narrow their ambition to expand. Therefore, their shift to provide what customers needed was a little bit more reactive and a hindering effect, but their vision was not their driver of shifting change, but they did shift and they did recognize where this shift needed to happen. So in the end, it was a positive outcome.